Good day. It's Monday, November 3rd, 2025. The government shutdown has gone into its sixth week, with the Democrats standing firm about defending the health insurance subsidies under the Affordable Care Act of Obamacare. I'm Maribel Villanueva. Welcome to The Pulse. Senate Majority Leader John Thune, a Republican, traded blame with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Senator Thune, on his speech in the Senate, angrily blamed Democrats. Here he is.
Let me just point out, if I might, that we are 29 days into a Democrat shutdown. And the senator from New Mexico was absolutely right. SNAP recipients shouldn't go without food. People should be getting paid in this country. And we've tried to do that 13 times. And you voted no 13 times. This isn't a political game. These are real people's lives that we're talking about. And you all have just figured out, 29 days in, that, there might be some consequences. There are people who run out of money. Yeah, we're 29 days in. And they've done their best to make sure that a lot of these programs are funded. But at some point, the government runs out of money. 13 times, people over here voted to fund SNAP. 13 times they voted to fund WIC. My aching back.
But here is Democratic Leader Jeffries' response. Watch this.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Senator Fetterman has been critical of Dems' opposition to the CR. We're starting to see some cracks in your conference, too, where Josh Gottheimer has said that he thinks the deal that Leader Thune has put on the table, which is a vote on an extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits, is a fair deal if you reopen the government. Do you think this shows that there are more cracks on your side than there are on their side?
Let me explain something to you. There are zero cracks on the Democratic side. We are now 5 or 6 weeks into this, and we've been very clear from the beginning that we are going to stand up to lower the high cost of living for everyday Americans. That's the right fight. That we're going to stand up for our hard-working civil servants, our men and women in uniform. That's the right fight. And that we're going to decisively address the Republican health care crisis. And everybody on the Democratic side, certainly in the House, and our colleagues in the Senate have been tremendous on this. This is a very real thing, this Republican health care crisis that Republicans have visited on the American people. Largest cut to Medicaid in American history. Almost $1 trillion cut as part of their one big ugly bill. Because of Republican policies, hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health centers are closing all across the country, including in Louisiana. The country now faces the possibility of a $536 billion cut to Medicare, which would be the largest cut to Medicare in American history if Congress doesn't act by the end of this year because of what Republicans did in their one big ugly bill. And as a result of the Republican refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, tens of millions of Americans are about to experience health care premium increases that could equate to $1,000 or $2,000 per month, when more than 90% of the people who receive Affordable Care Act tax credits make around $63,000 per year. This is unsustainable. And this is a Republican health care crisis. And every single Democrat, certainly in the House, from Representative Ocasio-Cortez to Representative Josh Gottheimer, and all points in between along the ideological spectrum, are in this fight until we win this fight. And I'm in touch with everyone. And that's why we're here right now in the Capitol while Republicans remain on their 5-week vacation.
With the government still in shutdown, it is now listed as the second longest in history, lasting more than 34 days so far, a day short from the 35 days in the first Trump administration. For our audience abroad, a U.S. federal government shutdown happens when Congress fails to approve a spending bill, be it a temporary spending resolution or a long-term General Appropriations Act, to legally fund the government for its spending. Everyone who works for the government in the executive branch, which includes the armed forces and law enforcement agencies, will not have a paycheck during the government shutdown. But most in the country, from those who participated in polls or surveys, are now blaming the Republicans for not coming to Congress to talk for negotiations with the Democrats and come up with a compromise. Speaker Johnson is described by the media as governing through the media instead of calling the Republican House members to report for work. He sent them to their home state, which others call a vacation, while Democratic members are in Washington, D.C., and reporting to Congress, while Republicans are nowhere to be found. Families are hurting, especially because of the end of the SNAP food program that runs out of budget, without the spending resolution from Congress. And not only that, thousands of essential employees like air traffic controllers are reporting to work without paychecks. Government services to Americans came to a halt during the shutdown, including services to Americans abroad, because embassies and consulates are closed. Some Republican lawmakers have begun pressuring Speaker Mike Johnson to reconvene the House of Representatives, but media is saying he will only do so if there is a go-ahead from President Trump. The Category 5 Hurricane Melissa that made landfall in Cuba and Jamaica last week has already caused hundreds of deaths and massive destruction to property along a widely affected area. It continues to affect thousands of lives, not only in the Caribbean countries, but also in the U.S. mainland. Flooding from heavy rains resulted in damage to properties and infrastructure in portions of Florida, South Carolina, and Georgia. This happens at the time of a government shutdown where the services of FEMA, the Federal Emergency Administration, is fully functional, but with no funding. States that were affected had to grapple with scarce state resources to render aid to residents affected. It is said to think that the situation could only get worse in the weeks to come. We have a follow-up story on the Trump administration's fight to deport one immigrant that had become the poster child among their deportation program, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who is an immigrant from El Salvador. A federal judge last week ordered a new emergency hearing for his petition for relief, as the Trump administration is now threatening to deport him to Liberia in North Africa, a country Kilmar Abrego Garcia has no connection whatsoever. Judge Paulazzinis ordered the DOJ to an emergency hearing regarding public talks by the administration about deporting Kilmar Abrego Garcia to Liberia and asked the Justice Department what guarantee did Liberia give to the U.S. that they will not deport Abrego Garcia back to El Salvador. The DOJ lawyers told the judge that Liberia made the guarantee, but Judge Zinis could not obtain any written guarantee, which frustrated her again. We're going to take a commercial break. Please stay tuned for more.
Pure Medical Equipment provides top-notch quality medical supply equipment. Whether to rent or buy, Pure Medical Equipment and Supplies has it all.
Pure Medical Equipment is committed to serve and give back to Southern Nevada.
We deliver medical supplies and rentals to your door.
Hi, my name is Jessica Jicosalamrola. I am here sharing some exciting Pulse community news. I represent Phil-Am TV as your station manager here in Las Vegas, and I will be in person at the Via Brazil Steakhouse at their Summerlin location on Fort Apache Road Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m., November 13th. There will be over 90 attendees who are already registered, ready to hopefully meet me. I will be sharing some news about Phil-Am TV, advertising opportunities with guests, and we are super excited to be there.
We use headphones as a part of our everyday lives. Whether we're at work, getting exercise, meditating, in transit, studying, practicing, or relaxing.
Hi, I'm Ryan Sway, the founder of Aircom. I would like to introduce the world's first wireless airflow audio earbuds. As a festival and a concert junkie, I really enjoy the live experience of being there and feeling the music. When we started developing Airflow, our goal was to reproduce that live experience using earbuds.
The problem with traditional headphones is that the speakers are located inside of the earpiece, literally giving you centimeters before the audio hits your eardrum.
What Aircom is doing, they're the first company to actually address the fact that there needs to be a space involved associated with having the sound waves expand fully.
The difference between traditional headphones and Aircom audio is that the air tube gives you 8 times more space, allowing the sound waves to fully develop before they actually hit your eardrums. And this gives it a much more live, natural sound, just like in a recording studio.
It's real nice that someone actually addressed the physics associated with how sound comes out.
The challenge we had was to create an earbud with enough airspace for the sound to fully develop and breathe. Unfortunately, traditional earbuds are about the size of a jelly bean, and there's just not enough airspace. However, that changed when we developed Airflow Audio. Airflow uses an air tube to deliver 6 to 8 times more airspace than traditional earbuds. The end result is a true live listening experience, just like you're at a festival or a concert. We also added magnets to the back of the earpieces so you can wear it around your neck when you're not using it.
Being that the drivers are 8 inches from the earpiece, the magnets do not affect the integrity of the sound at all.
The orange line represents the frequency transmitting through the wire to the speaker, which then converts to the blue sound wave that develops more as it travels up the air tube, producing a balanced, full body and live listening experience.
Another really cool feature is that these earbuds are sweat-proof and water-resistant because they're coated with a super hydrophobic nanotechnology. So now you can be on a skateboard or riding a motorcycle and listen to music as if you were watching a live show or actually in a recording studio.
We're coming to you for help in bringing these unparalleled earbuds to market.
Welcome back to The Pulse. With more likelihood that Californians will vote yes on the referendum allowing the state legislature to allow a mid-decade redistricting of congressional districts, redrawing the map to take away 5 Republican-held districts to the Democratic side, the retaliatory move to push back against what the Texas legislature to gerrymander 5 Democratic-held districts to the Republican side will be completed. But Indiana and now Virginia have started the process to follow the demand of Donald Trump to redraw the congressional districts to favor more seats for the Republicans. The Virginia House of Representatives had passed a resolution empowering the state legislature to carry out a mid-decade redistricting instead of a constitutional amendment, which would take longer to accomplish. Some political observers believe this move by the Republican-controlled State House of Delegates will harm the Republican Party further in the upcoming gubernatorial election tomorrow, November 4, where Democratic Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger is ahead in 3 polls by double digits against Republican incumbent Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl-Sears. But one state legislature that is also controlled by Republicans in both chambers and a Republican governor, New Hampshire, has no appetite for joining this kind of redistricting that Trump wants. The governor of New Hampshire, Kelly Ayotte, said she will veto any mid-decade redistricting, such that last week the sponsors of the bill had withdrawn it, saying they don't have the vote. New Hampshire is a swing state where the state legislature are majority Republicans, but it always voted for a Democrat for president in the national election. During this past weekend, the Catholic world celebrated All Souls Day, that the Spanish world calls Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead. In the Philippines and in Mexico, all the way to South America, November 1st and 2nd are observed as legal holiday by those governments, which is a Memorial Day where families can visit and celebrate at the graveyard or cemeteries of any locality where their loved ones were buried. In the Philippines, this is also a big event in the calendar of families, such that the Philippine government will declare a 3-day national holiday by an executive order or presidential proclamation. This occasion is referred to in many provinces as Undas. We will show you some footage from a particular town of how serious the people are celebrating this Memorial Day. PhilAmTV's Joe Buban was on special assignment in Tunawan, Leyte province in the Philippines and submitted these videos. Watch this. That day is really important in Spanish Catholic world that even Disney made a movie about it. Remember the award-winning movie Coco? Let's take a commercial break, but please stay with us for the world news.
Hi, my name is Jessica Jicosalamrola. I am here sharing some exciting Pulse community news. I represent PhilAmTV as your station manager here in Las Vegas, and I will be in person at the Via Brazil Steakhouse at their Summerlin location on Fort Apache Road Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m., November 13th. There will be over 90 attendees who are already registered, ready to hopefully meet me. I will be sharing some news about PhilAmTV, advertising opportunities with guests, and we are super excited to be there.
Pure Medical Equipment provides top-notch quality medical supply equipment. Whether to rent or buy, Pure Medical Equipment and Supplies has it all.
Pure Medical Equipment is committed to serve and give back to Southern Nevada.
We deliver medical supplies and rentals to your door.
Welcome back to The Pulse. According to a report from the Associated Press, Argentina's President Milei's significant victory in the midterm election straightens markets and indicates support for Trump. As President Javier Milei celebrated his party's overwhelming victory in the midterm legislative elections, a mandate to move forward with radical free market reforms of Argentina's long-troubled economy. Argentine markets rejoiced, the Argentinian peso trading climbed, and government bonds jumped up on Monday. Just last week, investors who had been abandoning the continuously declining peso in large quantities to protect themselves from a Milei defeat had their trust restored. After markets started on Monday last week, the currency rose more than 10%, closing 3% higher at 1,460 pesos to a dollar. Argentina's local Merval stock index closed up 21%, while the country's dollar-denominated bonds, due to expire in 2035, climbed up to 14 cents during trading hours. The price swings following Milei's party, more than doubling of representation, looked to support the Trump administration's gamble on its close ideological partner in Latin America. He had a lot of help from us, said U.S. President Donald Trump to reporters aboard Air Force One Monday, referring to his administration's $40 billion pledge backing for Milei's and threats to withdraw the funds if Milei lost the vote to Argentinians' left-leaning populists. Prior to Sunday, Milei was on shaky ground as Argentine markets sank and the country faced a cash constraint after the opposition won a landslide municipal election, raising concerns that Argentines were losing patience with Milei's draconian austerity measures. Investors rushed to withdraw their money, concerned that Argentina would return to the budget-busting populism of its long-dominant Peronist opposition, as pundits anticipated Milei would face a difficult path in the election. Last week, the Argentine peso fell to a historic low of more than 1,500 against the dollar. In the end, Milei's La Libertad Avanza party won over 41% of Sunday's national vote for the lower house, defeating the Peronist coalition, which received 32%. From West Africa, Cameroon's opposition leader will face legal prosecution over election disturbances, the government says. According to a report from BBC, Cameroon's Interior Minister Paul Antanga NG has stated that opposition leader Issa Chiroma Bakary will face legal prosecution over charges that he incited violent post-election demonstrations. Since Cameroon's election on October 12, which saw 92-year-old President Paul Biya win an 8th consecutive term, at least 4 protesters have been killed in skirmish between security forces and opposition supporters. Chiroma Bakary claims to have won the election, although Biya's ruling party, the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, or CPDM, disputes this. Violent crackdowns by police and security officers on protesters have frightened the international community, with the UN African Union and EU urging moderation. On Tuesday, NG accused Chiroma Bakary of organizing illegal rallies that resulted in the loss of lives, as well as criticizing him for declaring victory in the election. He further stated that Chiroma Bakary's accomplices were responsible for an insurrectionary plan and will face legal action. He further stated that Chiroma Bakary's accomplices will face the same legal charges. According to Cameroon's Constitutional Council, Paul Biya, who took office in 1982 and is currently the world's oldest head of state, won the election on October 12 with 53.7% of the vote, while Chiroma Bakary received 35.2%. Chiroma Bakary has yet to reply to the government's intention to put him on trial. Although he earlier told the BBC that he would not accept a stolen vote and was not afraid of arrest. On election day, he claimed that armed men opened fire on demonstrators gathered near his home in Garoua, killing at least 2 people. On Tuesday, the Interior Minister announced that an inquiry into violent incidents prior to and following the release of election results would begin. NATO experts told Al Jazeera that Europe is unprepared to fight a new chapter of Russian military and intelligence actions in the Baltic Sea and North Seas. At the same time, they claimed a widening schism between Europe and American intelligence services under Trump administration is leaving the continent vulnerable. Last week's European Union conference was a prime example. Belgium has blocked a plan to use Russian money to fund Ukraine's defense and boost Europe's defense sector. The summit's conclusion did not include Russia's shadow fleet, which is suspected of espionage and sabotage operations. Europe is no more ready today to face Russia's military advances than it was in 1939, when Nazi troops were at the door, said Joseph Fitzanakis, Assistant Director of the Center for Applied Intelligence at Coastal Carolina University, one of only a few U.S. institutions teaching intelligence and national security. That frontline states like Finland, Poland, and Baltics have no illusions about what is coming, he said to Al Jazeera. However, I fear that plagued by internal divisions and victimized by relentless Russian disinformation operations, Western European populations are not even moderately awake to the dangers that threaten their security. He continued his comment. Since 2022, Russian intelligence has been suspected of sabotage and disinformation activities intended to confuse and divide. We will leave it at that for this week's edition. Please join us again next week here at The Pulse. I'm Maribel Villanueva. Thank you, and God bless your week.